Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard. Over the past 6 episodes, we have built the foundation of a basketball program. We created a vision, we established standards, we earned the trust of our players, we recruited the right people, we surrounded ourselves with assistant coaches who believed in the same mission. Then we stepped onto the court for our first practice. Everything has been exciting. Everything has been positive. But today we arrive at one of the moments that separates good coaches from the great ones. Not designing a practice, not calling timeouts, not drawing up final play. Today we are going to talk about one of the hardest responsibilities a head coach will ever have: holding people accountable. I want you to imagine this. It is second or third week of the season. Practice is very competitive. The intensity is high. You stop the drill to correct a mistake. But one of your senior players rolls his eyes, turns around, slowly walks away while you're speaking. The entire team sees it, obviously. Now what? Do you ignore it? Do you yell across the gym? Do you embarrass him in front of everyone? Do you send him home? Every decision you make in that moment teaches your team something. Not just about discipline, about your leadership. Here's what I have come to believe. Accountability is one of the purest forms of care a coach can give a player. Think about that. If I allow you to continue making poor decisions, if I ignore habits that are hurting your growth, if I stay silent because I don't want uncomfortable conversation, I am not protecting you, I am avoiding my responsibility, and real coaching isn't found in the easy conversations. It is found in the difficult ones. So the conversations that help people become better than they are today. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions in coaching is believing accountability is punishment. I don't believe that. Punishment is about making someone suffer for what they did. Accountability is about helping someone become who they are capable of becoming. Those are two different dogs. As coaches, we don't correct people because we are frustrated. We correct people because we believe in them. So if I stop correcting you, maybe I have stopped believing you improve. That's a dangerous place for any coach to be. One sentence has guided my coaching for many years. People don't rise to our expectations. They rise to the standards we consistently put. Notice I didn't say the standards we write on a locker room wall or the standards we talk about during preseason meetings. The standards we protect. Because every time we ignore a behavior that violates our culture, we have quietly lowered the standard for everyone. Standards don't disappear overnight. They disappear one exception at a time. That's why I believe something every head coach needs to understand. The standard is the standard. Not for freshmen, not for seniors, not for captains, not for all stars, not even for the head coach, for everyone. The moment standards become different depending on who the person is, they are no longer standards. They are preferences. And players notice that immediately. One of the fastest ways to lose a locker room is inconsistent accountability. If one player is corrected while another gets away with the same behavior because they are your leading scorer, you have taught your team something. You have taught them that talent is more valuable than integrity. And that's a lesson I never want my players to learn. Another mistake I see young coaches make is correcting players while emotions are still in control. They are angry, embarrassed, frustrated, so they react. I have learned that reaction and leadership are rarely the same thing. Emotion makes us feel like we need to respond immediately. Wisdom asks whether this is the right moment. Some conversations belong in the middle of practice. Others belong after practice. Others belong in your office, with door closed. One of the greatest skills a head coach can develop is knowing the difference. Because accountability isn't just about what you say, it's about when you say it and how you say it. One principle I want every future head coach to remember is this: never correct someone because you are emotional. Correct them because you are intentional. Those two approaches create completely different outcomes. One creates fear, the other creates growth. And as a head coach, I don't want players wondering whether I am going to lose my temper. I want them wondering whether they are living up to the standards we have committed ourselves to. That's a much healthier environment. Because accountability should never make players afraid of their coach. It should challenge them to become the best version of themselves. I want to ask you this question. When your players hear the word accountability, what do you think they feel? Fear? Embarrassment, maybe? Anxiety or opportunity? Because the answer to that question says much about you as a coach, too, as it does about the players. So far we have answered why accountability matters, and rest of the episode I want us to answer an even more important question: how do we actually hold players accountable without losing their trust? Because every coach will eventually face difficult conversations. A player misses class, someone is late for practice, a teammate shows poor body language, a captain begins believing the rules don't apply to him. These moments don't destroy a culture. How we respond to them does. And one of the biggest mistakes coaches make is believing accountability begins when a problem appears. I don't believe that. I believe accountability begins on the very first day you establish your standards. Players should never be surprised by accountability. They should know exactly what happens when the standards they have agreed to are ignored. If expectations are clear, accountability never feels personal. It feels consistent. And one principle has always guided me: correct the behavior, never attack the person. That's a huge difference. Never say you are lazy, you are selfish, you are a bad teammate. Those labels stay with people. Instead, you should be saying that decision doesn't represent the standard we have committed ourselves to. That behavior hurts our team. I know you are capable of better than that. See, notice the difference? I'm correcting the choice, not defining the person, because people can change. One poor decision should never become someone's identity. Another mistake I see is coaches talking far too much. Sometimes we lecture because we are frustrated. 5 minutes to 10 minutes. 10 minutes becomes 15 minutes. Eventually, the player stops listening. And I have learned something very simple. The best accountability conversations are usually the shortest. They're honest, respectful, specific. Then they're over. The purpose isn't to win an argument, the purpose is to help someone grow. And one thing I would never do is embarrass a player simply to prove I am in charge. Authority doesn't grow because people fear you. Authority grows because people trust your leadership. If a conversation needs to happen privately, have it privately. Protect people's dignity. Because today's embarrassed player is tomorrow's teammate, leader, or graduate. Never forget that. One question I ask myself before every difficult conversation is this: am I saying this to release my frustration or to invest in this person's future? Well, that question changes everything. If I'm speaking because I'm angry, I should probably wait. If I'm speaking because I genuinely want to help, now I'm ready. I also believe accountability should always include listening. Many coaches become excellent speakers. Very few become excellent listeners. Sometimes a player doesn't need another speech. Sometimes they need someone willing to ask, "Help me understand what happened. What were you thinking in that moment? What can we learn from this? Did you notice something?" Those questions invite responsibility, not excuses. And that's a huge difference. When players begin evaluating their own behavior honestly, real growth begins for them. And one philosophy I hope never changes in my coaching is this: I don't punish mistakes, I teach through them. Mistakes are part of learning. Poor choices that are repeated after they have been addressed. Those require accountability because repeated choices eventually become habits, and habits eventually become culture, and culture eventually becomes your identity. That's why accountability protects the future, not just today's practice. Another principle I believe strongly is that every accountability conversation should end with hope. Never leave a player wondering if you have given up on them. I want every difficult conversation to finish with something like this: "I believe in you." That's why we are having this conversation. I am invested in who you can become. Hey, let's move forward together. Those words matter because players should leave accountability conversations feeling challenged, not defeated, responsible, not rejected. I have often said that coaching is teaching. If accountability doesn't teach, it probably isn't coaching. It is simply criticism. Before we finish today's episode, I would like to leave every future head coach with one assignment. I want you to take out a notebook. Write down the 5 behaviors that you will never compromise. Not basketball skills, character ones. Honesty, respect, effort, discipline, responsibility. Now ask yourself one difficult question: do I live these standards every single day? Because the truth is this: players don't become accountable because coaches demand it. Players become accountable when they consistently see accountability modeled by the people leading them. The head coach sets the emotional temperature of the program. If I accept responsibility for my mistakes, my players are more likely to do the same. And if I make excuses, eventually my team will too. Leadership has never been about asking people to do what I say. It's about showing people what it looks like to live the standards together. And I'll leave you with one final thought. Purpose of accountability isn't to control people. It is to help people become who they are capable of becoming. When players understand that, accountability stops feeling like punishment. It becomes another expression of trust. And when trust and accountability exist together, culture becomes something players protect themselves. So next episode we will discuss one of the greatest tests of every head coach. Winning. Not how to win games, but how to lead after winning. Because success has a way of changing people. And if we are not careful, it can slowly change our culture too.